so these are the materials, and well, let me do the samples first, and then I'll go over the materials. So if you need to grab something real quick, you can do that while I'm talking about samples. So this is the first lantern that I created, and I asked you to use slightly heavier stock because there were fewer pleats in it. I was afraid it wouldn't be sturdy if it was thin. This is the original one. So this is made out of vellum, and it's got a lot more pleats in it. So I was afraid it wouldn't be as sturdy if we used thin paper with fewer pleats. So that's one of the reasons I asked you to use maybe card stock or something like that. But if you, and it's scoring, and within paper, it's easy to access your paper. This was the kind of paper I recommended. It's this double thick Unreal paper, and it's nice because you get the color shift from the front to the back, but it's also got a good weight to it, and it folds nicely. And then this is some beautiful paper that I got from Helen Hebert that folded really nicely too. This is one of my favorites. And so these are the samples, just to give you an idea of where we're heading. So let me put those out of the way. And I also made a teeny tiny one out of, this is old Egyptian currency. So you can even go really small if you like that sort of thing. I love small things. All right, so now to the materials. I have various types of paper. So this is a cardstock that is different on each side. So you'll get a reveal when we do the twist. Let me show you this one. When we do the twist, the paper, some of the paper from the inside will come to the outside. So that's why I suggested getting paper that was different on the two sides. So this is just some cardstock scrapbooking paper. And then I've got some handmade paper that I think I got from Linda at Washi Arts. And that's what I made the original lantern out of. So this is nice, sturdy, feels like a handmade paper. It looks hand stamped too. It's very pretty for Christmas time. And then I think today I'm just going to use a very basic paper just so that it's easier for you to see the folds. And I'm going to draw some lines to indicate where we're going to cut and do some other things. So because this paper is the same on both sides, I've just written front and back so that you know which side we're working on. And I've scribbled some lines on the back because it will be on the inside. So this is the paper I'm going to use, and this is slightly thinner, but it's still a nice weight paper. And so that's the paper. Let me set that down. And then the other things you need are a pair of scissors for the cutting. A bone folder is really good to help reinforce your folds and creases. And if you are using really thick paper, you might need it to help you after you've scored. And then I have a score tool. And then I have a selection of rulers and rules. So this is what I meant when I was talking about a steel rule. It's a piece of metal that is a standard width. And then this one is, I think, 9 inches long, but they come in different lengths. And so the standard width of this is a 1/2 inch. But if you don't have a fancy set of these, then you could just have cut a piece of thin cardboard, the 1/2 inch to use, if you didn't have a see-through ruler. But I like using the see-through rulers and lining up. That way we don't have to like take our paper and measure 1/2 inch in at the top and make a mark, measure 1/2 inch in at the bottom and make a mark, and then line up the 2 marks and score. You can just lay this down on the edge on the 1/2 inch mark and go. So these are scrapbooking rulers, but there's also a lot of people are quilters, and quilt rulers come like this as well for the same reason, so that you don't have to measure in a tricky sort of way. So I'm going to use my ruler, but any of these other pieces will work too. So I'm going to set those aside. And then I didn't put this on the materials list because you don't have to glue or tape your lantern together. Because of all the pleats, it will actually kind of lock itself together. But if you want to, you can either use double stick tape or some glue to tape it together at the very end, but that can be done later. And then I have a pen because I'm actually going to mark up my paper while we're folding, just so you can see some places where we're going to be doing some cutting, but you shouldn't need one for today. And with that, we can begin. So I'm going to set some of these things aside. All I really need right now is my piece of paper. I'm going to just put my tools to the side. And I'm going to start with the back of my paper facing front. And what I mean by the back is whatever you want to end up on the inside of your lantern should be facing up right now. We need to do a series of mountain folds, but it's hard to fold mountains. So we're going to actually do valleys, but we want the mountains to be on the front of our paper. So we're going to make the front of the paper be face down. So whatever, so usually when you do a lantern, you want the colorful side to be on the outside, but you can pick whichever one you want. Or if you have just plain colored paper, then it doesn't really matter. But anyway, so the back side facing up, flat on your surface, and we're going to do a fold the long way in half. So I like to fold away from me. Do it however you're comfortable. I'm going to take this bottom edge and fold it to the top edge and line it up pretty carefully. Make sure it's lined up across. And then give it a good crease. And then I like to bone fold as well. And leave it folded. And then we're going to take the paper, and I'm right-handed, so I'm going to turn it so that my fold is to the left and the open part of the paper is to the right. But if you are left-handed, you might want to do it the opposite way. And then I'm going to take my longer ruler because I've got a 12-inch length to cover here. And this is where I'm going to line it up along the half-inch mark. So if you are using the, if you cut a piece of chipboard or something, you'll line the edge of your chipboard up with the edge of that fold. Make sure you're on the fold side. So like this. Get my ruler back in here. So line it up on the half, and the half-inch we're going to be using from now on. You only have to remember that one measurement. And then I'm going to take my score tool and score pretty firmly because we actually want it to go through both layers, but don't push so hard that you bust through your paper. Get a good score. And then we're going to fold a pleat. And my paper is thin enough that I don't need help. But if you're using really thick paper, I would recommend leaving your ruler lined up, like if you want with really thick cardstock, and take your bone folder and go between the two layers and press along that crease before you fold. But you should, if you're using lighter weight cardstock or lighter weight paper, you should be fine. So I've got a crease now. I'm going to take my paper, and now I'm on the front. Let me turn it right side up so front shows. And I've got this mountain fold going down the middle, and I've got these score lines. And what I'm going to do is stand it up and fold down on the first score line, the one that was on top. And then once I've got that crease folded through, I'm going to just stand up and pinch the paper together so it's nice and tight, and I'm going to fold it back the other way because we need a pleat. We're folding a pleat, but we want the pleat to actually go in both directions. Okay. And then you're going to unfold the piece of paper. So you should be on the front side of your lantern now, and you should have 3 folds. You should have a fold that is a valley fold, and then you should have a mountain fold running through the middle of your paper, and then you should have another valley fold a half an inch away. Hopefully everybody can see that. And that's the only fold we're making in that direction, or the only series of folds we're making in that direction. The next thing we're going to do is we need a tab so that we can connect the lantern up once we make it into a circle or a square. And again, that's going to be a half inch. And I apologize for the garbage truck going through the neighborhood. So I'm going to do this on the left-hand side because I'm right-handed and I want to hold the ruler with my left hand. But if you are left-handed, it'll be easier to do this over on the right side. So again, a half inch from the edge, we're going to measure in and score. And now you're only going through one thickness, so you don't need to press quite so hard. Give it a good score. And then generally the rule is you score and then you fold away from the score line. So I'm actually going to turn this into a mountain fold, and I'm going to do that by flipping my paper over and folding, so you can see, and then folding up that little half inch crease. And we're going to leave this folded. Do not unfold this until I tell you to. Okay, so now we're back on the back side. I've got my half inch. It's now over on the right, but it doesn't matter which side it's on. I just want to make sure you're on the back again because we're going to do a series of folds going this direction, going up and down. We need to do 8 divisions, but we need to do them with that half inch folded in, okay? And again, I'm going to rotate my paper 90 degrees and have that folded edge at the top away from me. And I'm going to take my bottom edge here and I'm going to fold it all the way up to that fold line. So fold what is left of your paper in half and make a crease. So we folded the whole piece in half, and we're going to unfold. And then we're going to fold each of the edges to the center crease that we just made. So I'm going to start at the bottom. Fold. And again, try to be careful. You can line up these 3 crease lines that you already made sort of in the center to make sure you're staying nice and straight. And you can check your edges, make sure they're straight. So I'm going to fold up the top edge. And now I'm going to ignore my rule without folding away from me. And I like to leave this edge folded and then bring the other fold up to it. It gives me sort of a stop. And you're going to crease. And now we've divided our piece of paper into quarters. And again, we're making all mountain folds here on the back side. We're making valley folds on this side. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 sections, and we need to have 8. So if we were just making a quick little lantern, this is all the folds we would need. And we would just fold this up and use the tab, and we'd have this paper lantern, right? But we want to put a pleat in the center of each of these sections. So we have to fold one more time in the middle of each of those sections to make the pleat. So I'm going to start with my bottom edge again, fold to the first crease, line everything up, and crease. You can use your bone folder to reinforce that if you want. And then I'm going to unfold that, and I'm going to take that bottom edge and fold it, not to the middle because we've already done that. I'm going to fold up to this crease up here near the top. And that will do the second middle crease that we need. Okay. And then you're going to unfold. And then I'm actually going to rotate my paper around so that the folded 1/2-inch edge is now down at the bottom. It's just easier for me to fold away from me. And then I'm going to fold again from that edge to the first crease that I see. Line it up. Give it a good crease. And bone fold it. And then for this last crease, we now have 2 folds up here at the top. So the easiest way to find the right fold to fold to is fold down this first one. So the first crease you come up to, the first crease you see from going from the edge that's farthest away from you, if you fold it down, now open the, oops, let me move it up so you can see, open the bottom crease up. So you're back to that 1/2-inch fold over. And we're going to take this edge and we're going to fold it all the way up to the crease up here. Okay. And that will give us our crease in the middle of this section down here. It's just an easy way to not get confused about which crease you're supposed to fold to. Okay, so now we have creased and divided the vertical direction into 8 sections. So when we first started, we did that long crease and we did the 1/2-inch pleat. Now we have to do that in the vertical direction, but we're only doing every other one. So let me, I don't think I'm going to visually show you. I'll just talk you through it. So in order to do the pleat creases, we're going to turn it back to the front side. And now I've got it right side up. So my folded under 1/2-inch is over here on the left again. And the pleats we need to do are the middle of this section, the middle of this section, the middle of this section, and then this last one. So we're going to do the first and last mountain folds. And then the 2 other ones are a little trickier. So just when I start doing a crease before I do the pleat, the score for the pleat, just look and make sure that your piece of paper looks the same as mine before you pleat, because we're not doing all of them. We're only doing every other one. So the first one's easy. We're just going to fold back the first mountain fold on the left. And we're going to put our ruler on the 1/2-inch mark or whatever rule you're using for your 1/2-inch. And then we're going to pleat. We're going to score. We're not going to do actually we are going to do the pleat. I've been making a lot of these and I've just been going all the way through and doing the scoring and then coming back and pleating, but I think it'll be easier if we pleat them as we go. So score and then move your ruler away. And then it's easy because you can see that line. We're just gonna pull the paper out from under and just fold over onto that score line, and then stand up your mountain and then just gently fold it back the other way. And it should fold in both directions pretty easily, unless you're using super thick paper, in which case you'll want to, you might want to do your score on both sides if you're using really thick paper. That'll help too. But anyway, so that's going to be our procedure. We're gonna fold back a mountain. We're going to line up our ruler. I'll just review this again. We're going to score and press it pretty well if it's really thick paper. And you're going to move your ruler aside, turn however it's comfortable for you to fold. Fold down the pleat, stand up the mountain, pinching the two thicknesses of paper together, and then fold it back towards you and give it a good crease. Okay, so that's one pleat done. I'm going to unfold that pleat. Okay, so you can see I've done the first mountain. I am skipping the second mountain. Do not pleat this one. So I'm going to count 1 mountain, 2 mountains, 3 mountains, and I'm going to fold back. Now, you will know that you folded back the right mountain fold if, when you look on the back, it is not folded in half. You have one section, if you fold it down, they meet up. Okay, so you'll know you're on the right. So maybe you want to check that. Make sure you're on the right pleat. So I'm going to turn it back over. And you should also see, so this is the one we're going to pleat, but you should also see 1, 2, 3, 4 mountain folds to the right of the one that we're going to actually do a score mark on. So I'm going to lay down my ruler carefully at the 1/2 inch line. I'm going to press my scoring tool a couple of times. I'm going to move my ruler aside, turn my paper, unfold the layer of paper behind, and then pinch up your mountain and fold on the mark you just made with your scoring tool. Stand up your mountain fold and pleat it in the opposite direction. Okay. And then I'm going to turn it back the long way and unfold. So now maybe you can see I've got a pleat because I've got this sort of little box of little squares. Then I've got one where there's pleats this way, but there's nothing happening in the middle here. So I've skipped this fold. And I've got another little box of 4 squares here. We're going to skip. This one is the center one, so that's an easy one to skip. Oh, okay, if it folds in half, you're on the wrong one. So we're going to skip the center fold, and we're going to go to the next one, the next mountain. So I'm going to fold that back, and you can take a look at my model and your piece of paper. You should see, you should have a mountain fold over here on the left, and you should see 1, 2 mountain folds left to the right, and then you should actually see paper sticking out from underneath. So if you've got it set up like that, we're going to take our ruler and measure our 1/2 inch. Take your score tool, give it a good score. Move your tools aside. I'm going to turn my paper. Remember to unfold the whole thing and then pinch up that mountain. And fold it over on the crease, the score mark you just made, and then stand it up and start creasing it in the other direction and slowly lay it down. Give it a crease. You can unfold it if you want. And then we just have one more to go, and the last one is easy because it's the last mountain fold. So just go to the last one, fold it under. I'm going to actually just turn this around so it's on my left, so it's easy to crease, or you can flip it the whole thing over. So just make sure you're on the last one and you got most of the paper out to the other side of you. Mark your 1/2 inch. Do your score a couple of times. And remember to unfold the paper that's tucked underneath, and then just fold up on that mountain fold, pinch it together and fold over. And then slowly stand it back up, pinching it nice and firmly together. Back towards you. And that is it for pleating. So before we go on, We've kept that little 1/2 inch fold folded up this whole time. We now need to unfold it. So I want you to have every fold unfolded at this point. And we're on the front, and you should have a series of, you should have this one long group of 3 lines going down the center, and then you should have groups of 3 in every other place. And then on the opposite ones, and those form the corners of our lantern. So the ones without pleats are going to be our corners, but don't worry about that yet. But you should have 4 little squares, and this is where my pen is going to come in handy. And you don't need to do this unless you're having trouble seeing your paper and where stuff is, but I'm going to draw this for you just so it's very clear, because the next thing we're going to do is cut this area, and I don't want you to accidentally cut the wrong thing. So, and if you don't want to do it in a dark pen, you can do it in pencil if you're having trouble seeing your creases. So go ahead and take a second to do that if you want to. And if you don't want it to show, you should actually do it on the front, because the back is going to show when we're done. Although these lines that I'm drawing in the center will actually go away, but these outer edge lines. Well, anyway, just do it in pencil and erase it. It'll be better that way. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is actually cut. This is where your scissors come in. We're going to be cutting just these plus sign areas in the center of each of these squares. And I'm going to show you how to do it. You can do it with an X-Acto knife and a ruler if you want. I like to just use scissors. It's such a small little cut. And we're actually going to be cutting again to shape the twist. So if you don't cut perfectly accurately, it won't really show in the final result. But if you want a nice straight line, you certainly can use a straight edge and an X-Acto blade. But I'm going to use scissors, and I'm going to show you how. So I'm going to do the short pleats first. So I'm going to go back to the left and take this first one. I'm just going to fold up that mountain fold again. And because I've drawn on this, you can see. And I'm just going to cut from the fold and just past this valley crease that we made at the edge of the pleat. I'll show you. Maybe watch me first, and then you can cut yours. And I know it's a little confusing because I drew the whole box, but I'm cutting on, if you didn't draw anything, I'm cutting on the mountain fold in the center. And I've cut just like a millimeter beyond the valley fold. Okay. So fold your paper in half on the mountain that has the pleat on it. Cut on the mountain fold and it's perpendicular to it, and cut just a tiny, tiny bit past here. I'll hold this up a little closer. Just cut a hair past the valley fold there. And then we're going to just repeat that all the way down. So we're going to go to the next, and make sure you're not on the, you're going to skip a mountain again. Okay. So we did the first mountain that isn't the tab. We're going to skip one. This is in case you didn't draw. And then we're going to go to the next one. And when I haven't drawn, if I have trouble seeing the mountain, I kind of push underneath and make it form a little mountain peak so that I can nest my scissors in it. And then just carefully cut as straight as you can, and just a hair past that valley crease that we made. And then I'm skipping this one without any drawing on it. I'm going on to the next one. And again, I'm going to just sort of pop up. See how what I'm talking about with popping up the mountain fold, just so I know I'm on that mountain fold crease. And just cut carefully. And then I just got the last one to do, and that is at the last mountain crease. Just give it a little, I like to just stick my finger underneath and pop it up. Helps me to see it when I don't use marker to draw. And just, like I said, just go a tiny, tiny bit past the valley fold, just a little hair. You don't have to go very far past. Okay, and then I'll be back to the front. So we've cut 4 little slits. Maybe you can see them. Yeah, if I do this. So I've just cut 4 slits that way. And to cut in the other direction, I'm just going to recrease that very first fold that we made that goes through the center of the long way. And the same thing again, I'm going to sort of peek, push up on that mountain fold in the center and cut with my scissors. Just take a second and cut carefully and just go just past the valley fold in this direction. And just repeat that down the line. So you remember you're skipping every other mountain fold though. Cut. And hopefully you can see the ones that don't have the valleys on either side of them. So it's easy to avoid cutting them. If you accidentally cut in the wrong place, sometimes when I haven't marked it, I accidentally cut on a valley, just tape it on the back and it'll be fine. Or, you know, watch the video later and redo it. It's just a piece of paper, so don't stress if something goes wrong and you need to do it again. And then I'm cutting my last one. I'm just going a tiny bit past that valley fold, just to make sure that it will flex easily. Okay, now I'm going to show you one of the two fun parts of this. So we can, I don't think I've got one here. Oh, I do have one. So if you do nothing, if we don't do any more cutting and we do the twist pleats, what you're going to end up with is little squares that'll twist and pleat. But if you want a different shape, like say a circle or a star shape, this one, or you can do a diamond shape. This is a little bit more diamond shaped. It's still a little curvy, but you can just cut straight. We have to do a little bit more cutting. So that's what I'm going to show you now. And I'm going to show you all 4 of those examples. I'm going to leave one alone. I'm going to cut one that'll be a circle. I'm going to cut one that'll be a diamond, and I'm going to cut one that'll be a star shape. If you only want one of those, you might want to wait until I do all 4 so you know which one you want to choose. Or you could do 2 and 2, or you can have one that's a sample and it shows all 4 of them. You can do what you want, but you might not want to just proceed if you only want one kind. So I'm going to start with the circle because that's my, well, I'm not going to do anything to this first one because that'll show you what it looks like. The second one, I'm going to show you how to cut a circle. So we leave it folded in half this direction, but then we also need to fold along the mountain fold in the other direction. So now I've got all 4 of my little squares, and all their little edges that are open that we've cut are all lined up on top of each other. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a shape like this. And I try to do like a quarter circle curve cut. And that will make a circle. So if you want to do circles with all of yours, you can just go for it from now. So I start at the valley fold, and I just cut slowly and carefully through all 4 layers of paper down to where the other valley fold edge is. So if you would like all 4 to be circles, just take the next one, fold over so that you've got all 4 layers on top of each other, draw a semicircle if you need to, and then cut. If you want to do a diamond, I'll show you that next. So the diamond is just the opposite of the circle. You start, and instead of doing an arc that goes out, you do a concave one. So you're going to cut like that and then cut across. I always start up here at the top at the where the pleat fold is, and just cut slowly, nice little curve down to the other edge where we had cut to. So that will give me a diamond shape. And then you can also just do a squared off diamond, and that one's super easy. You just cut the diagonal. And you can explore other shapes if you'd like. There are other things that can be done, but I will leave that up to you to discover. So that one will give us also a diamond, but not a curvy diamond. Or I'm calling this other one a star. Okay, so now we will do the collapsing and the magic. So anyway, these are what they look like when different folded. But we will do the final step, which is the final series of folds and pleats. And the magic will happen. So fun. I love this part. Okay, so we're going to start again with the long edge. So we want to, now it's a little bit harder because we've got these holes that we've cut, but I put my hand sort of flat on the paper and push back with my fingers and push forward with my thumbs to make that center crease stand up, the center pleat stand up. I'll show you again. So it's flat. I lay my hand sort of gently on it, and I just am sort of pulling towards the center and pushing towards the center with my thumb and fingers until I can grasp that center. Now, in order to get our pleats to twist nicely, what we now have these, instead of having one long pleat, we've got these different sections that we've cut. And we need to lay them down in opposite directions. So I'm going to start on the left, and just arbitrarily, I'm going to lay down towards me the first section of the pleat. But you can start up, it doesn't matter. If you want to follow along, but if what I'm doing, lay it down. Oh, you know what? It's getting dark. So I'm going to turn on another light. Okay, so I'm laying down the first section of this pleat, and then I'm going to, because we have to go opposite for the next one, the next little section is going to go up. And you might want to sort of bone fold and crease as you go, especially where the two intersect with each other. It can want to flop. But I'm just going to kind of hold it down with my hand as I go. So this one went up, so this next one will go down, back towards me. I'll give it a little crease. So this section will go up, and then this last one will go down. Okay. So do you see how it sort of zigzags the pleats? Because we've cut it, we now have separate parts of the pleat, and they need to go opposite. So take a second and look at this and make sure yours looks similar. It won't work if you don't do it opposite. So it's a good idea to just double check right now that you have it going like mine does. Okay, I'm going to turn my model 90 degrees just so that it's a little easier for me to deal with. And then I'm going to start with this first pleat. And again, I'm going to sort of pinch it with my hands so that the mountain stands up. And then it'll just want to unfold and open up this little twist in the center. So remember, my first one is just a square. And then we go to the second one where the two parts of the pleat go opposite directions. Just stand it up and voila, a circle. And we'll go to the third one. Press to the left and right of that pleat, and it will open up, and you get this nice little, it's a little hard to see in my light, but anyway, that is a star shape to me. And then we go to the last one. And now that you're all pros, and we get a diamond shape. So now we almost have our lantern done. We could actually fold it up now and stick the tab to the other end and call it a lantern. The problem is, and I can show you this, it's a little flopsy if you just do it like this. So we've got one more step, then it will be perfect. So we could do it like this, but see how it wants to kind of go all over it. Because of these pleats, it kind of wants to pull apart at the top and bottom. So to fix that, what we're going to do, and you didn't need to do all the folding, what we're going to do is another 1/2 inch measurement at the top and the bottom, but we had to wait until it was all pleated before we did this. All right, so the last thing we need to do is we're going to do 1/2 inch scores and folds on the top and bottom. So I'm going to rotate it to the side just because it's easier to handle. And I want you to line up the edges of your and it's probably going to bow a little in the middle because we did all this pleating. The edge is probably not straight anymore. It's fine. You're going to make it straight when you do this crease, but to make sure I'm not taking too much or too little. Oh, that lamp is kind of glaring. Sorry. I'm just going to make sure it's at a 1/2 inch mark at the ends, and I'm not going to worry if there's a, if it's bowed in the middle. Don't worry about that. And then I'm going to do a score. But as you're scoring, be careful because sometimes you're going to run into a pleat that's facing the same direction as you're dragging your score tool, and I don't want you to accidentally tear it. So lift when you get to the folds for the pleats, and just go slow. We have plenty of time. Give it a good crease, and I'm going to score the other side too before I fold it up. So lay this down, get this as flat as you can, your lantern. And remember, don't worry so much if it's not perfectly straight. Just try to get the top edge and the bottom edge at a 1/2 inch mark. And be careful of where your pleats are so that you don't tear them as you're going along with your bone folder or your scoring tool, sorry. Okay, so we've got those two scores. And then I'm gonna turn it over to the back side because it's always easier to fold away. I'm going to carefully fold over 1/2 inch. And this will secure all those pleats so that when we fold it up into a lantern, it'll be nice and sturdy. Now here's another place where if you want to, you could glue or tape this down. I don't, if it's really thick paper, you might want to, but I don't think it's necessary for thinner paper to do that. And once you get it all put together, you won't need it to be, it should just stay on its own. And just carefully go along your crease line, your score line. Crease, and this is a really good place to use your bone folder, especially where there's pleats, because now you've got like 3 or 4 thicknesses of paper. Okay, now we are ready to fold it up into a lantern. So I'm going to start at my 1/2 inch little tab here at the end, and then I'm skipping where we did the twist pleat, and I'm going to the next crease because that's the corner of my lantern. And then again, I'm going to skip this place where it twisted in the middle, and I'm going to go to the next one that's just a plain crease, reinforce that crease, and then there's one more up here that I'm just going to fold back down this way. And again, a bone folder might be a good idea here just to get a nice crease. And then we can fold up our lantern and put it together. Now you've got turnovers at the top and bottom that you can insert your little tab into, but you can also insert your tab. Go back to slide up. You can also, where this pleat is in the center, you can open this up and tuck it into the tab as well. What I like to do is put one end in and sort of hold it with my thumb and finger. Then I sort of get the, well, maybe it's easier to do the pleat. Start with the center pleat and lift. I'm going to just tuck it in here. So I'm going to pull them aside a little bit and put this one over that one. And then you can just overlap the foldovers at the top and the bottom. And for some papers, that's enough. It's strong enough to hold your lantern together. For others, you might want to tape or glue it, in which case you don't really have to worry about that center pleat. Okay, hopefully everyone has now folded a lantern. And I have 2 ideas for you. So one of them is, I told you I was sending these to people on their Christmas cards, and the reason I can do that is because this folds down flat. And now it's only like 4 by 4 or something, 4 1/4 by 4 1/4 inches, and it'll fit in a standard size card. So I can mail this to people, fold it down flat, and then they can pop it back up when they get it. So that's one idea for you. Some other things that you can do, I took a Japanese screw punch, and after I got all of the pleating done, so I was at the stage where everything was folded and pleated, then I punched these holes through all the layers. The screw punch went through the layers, no problem. And that way, you know, it's all lined up where you want your holes to go. And that could, so if you're using a thicker paper and you want more light to come through, you can do this. You can use decorative punches to put light through. If you don't have a screw punch or a decorative punch, you can just use an awl and punch holes in it and make holes. Here's another variation, and this is for people who are more advanced or who want to do something more advanced. If you notice where the twist is, it's not in the center here. And then the next one is high, this one is low, and this one is high. And if I open it up flat, you can see that they zigzag. And the way I did that was, instead of folding it in half the long way, I folded it into thirds. So I had 2 rows. But that's more advanced. But that's something you can play with if you'd like to. Another trick that I discovered, and this was completely accidental, I have waxed some papers and then I keep them in a folder just because it makes them translucent. And I just used some beeswax candle. I melted it on the paper and then blotted up the excess. But I had a thought one day that wouldn't it be fun to use scented wax? So I found a source on Etsy who sells just these beeswax melts, and you can get them at a bunch of different scents. And this is what I did for my holiday ones. I bought Christmas scented wax, and I have a little pot that I can melt it in. It maintains the temperature, and then you just brush it on with a paintbrush. And then I use an old iron that doesn't have holes in it to iron it into the paper, and it makes it translucent and it makes it sturdier too. And then they smell really good. So that's one of my bonus tips for you. And then what else was I going to tell you? If you want to try vellum, it's very pretty. It kind of works like the waxed paper. It's sort of see-through. And I would have loved to have lit some of these for you, but I couldn't figure out how to do it so that you could see it. But anyway, and it was too bright earlier anyway. Is there anything else I wanted to tell you? I think that was it. So definitely look at the links in the chat for the books and for the YouTube. Did I mention before that this lantern I have a YouTube video for? It's got more measuring in it. There's different measurements depending on whether you're doing a pleat or the top, and it's got more pleats. It's got pleats at the top and bottom as well as the center. And then there will be a video of this session as well. So, but if you want to try this one with more pleats, there's a YouTube video for that. So all of that's in the chat. So you might want to copy those things before you leave. And I think that's it. Thank you all for coming, and I hope you had fun.